Ryan stood at the edge of the landing bay, holding a small bag with everything he owned. His uniform was plain. His boots were worn. The ship around him was massive, with bright walls and strange blue lights that moved like waves. This was the Xerian Galactic Academy, a training place for the best young warriors and thinkers from across the galaxy, and Ryan was the first human to ever set foot on it. As he walked forward, the air felt heavy. Hundreds of alien cadets filled the main hall. They were tall, strange, elegant, and glowing with different colors. Some had horns, some had skin like glass, some floated instead of walking. All of them turned to look at him. Then they laughed. Some pointed. Others whispered. A tall cadet with green scales spoke loudly to his friend. "Is that really a human? I thought they were just a story from the edge worlds." Ryan ignored them. He kept walking. His steps were slow but steady. His heart beat fast, but he kept his face calm. He found his name on the screen and walked toward the dorm section. Everywhere he passed, eyes followed. The laughter didn't stop. Some tried to hide it, but most didn't. Even the robots seemed to move around him like he didn't belong. He found his room. It was small but clean. He dropped his bag and sat on the bed. The walls were too quiet. He looked at his reflection in the glass panel. He didn't look weak. He didn't look strong either. He looked tired. Back on Earth, Ryan had trained hard. He studied alien languages, learned how to pilot, how to fight, and how to fix machines without needing tools. He had passed every test. The council chose him because he had something they called unshakable will. But here, none of that seemed to matter. The first day of training came. All cadets gathered on the combat floor. It was wide and shining, with floating platforms and gravity fields. Instructors stood on high platforms watching. Ryan stood at the edge, alone. "Pair up," the instructor said in a strong voice. Everyone moved fast. Partners found each other. Friends stood together. No one came to Rion. He waited. The instructor looked at him. "You," he pointed at Rion. "Join Group D." Ryan moved toward the group. There were 3 cadets already. A red-skinned male looked at him and laughed. "We already have enough," he said. Ryan stood still. He didn't reply. The instructor was watching. He didn't want to cause trouble. So he turned to find another spot. That's when it happened. A voice cut through. "The noise, clear, cold, sharp like ice. He's mine." Everyone turned. She walked forward with calm steps. Her skin was silver with a soft shine. Her eyes were violet and serious. She wore the same uniform as others, but somehow she looked more royal. Her long black hair moved like it had its own mind. She stopped beside Ryan. "I will partner with him," she said. The instructor raised one brow but didn't argue. "Very well. Begin training." The floor shifted. Floating rings appeared. Targets rose from the ground. Combat drills started. Ryan was still looking at the girl beside him. "Why did you do that?" he asked. "Because no one else would," she replied. He nodded. "Thanks. I'm Ryan." "Velu," she said, keeping her eyes forward. The drills were hard. Ryan was slower than the others, but he didn't quit. He took every hit, learned from every move, and got back up each time. Velu didn't speak much, but she didn't leave him behind. She matched his pace. Sometimes she corrected his stance with a quick nod or a silent gesture. She never laughed, never looked down on him. By the end of the training, Ryan's arms ached, his legs were shaking, but he was still standing. That alone made a few heads turn. Back in the hall, the whispers changed. No one laughed this time. Instead, they asked each other one question. Why did Velu pick the human? Ryan walked beside her, still breathing hard. He didn't say much, but inside he felt something new. Not pride, not victory, but something close to hope. That night, Ryan sat in his room thinking about the day. He didn't know who Velu truly was or why she helped him, but he knew one thing. He wasn't alone anymore, and that changed everything. Ryan woke up early the next morning. His arms still hurt from training. His back was sore. But he didn't complain. Pain was better than silence. Pain meant he had survived the first day. The Academy ship floated through deep space. It was huge, like a city made of glass and light. But to Ryan, it still felt cold. The halls were quiet when he stepped out of his room. No one greeted him. The other cadets moved past him like he was invisible, except for one. Velu was waiting at the entrance to the training hall. She stood with her arms behind her back, looking ahead. When she saw him, she gave a short nod. "You're early," she said. Ryan smiled. Didn't want to be late. They walked together toward the drill zone. It was still empty. The lights were soft. The air was fresh, made by machines he couldn't even name. Ryan looked at Velu. She was quiet, as always. Calm and serious. "Why? Did you help me?" he asked, finally. She looked at him. Her violet eyes didn't blink. "Because I saw something." He waited. She didn't continue. That was all she said. Before he could ask more, the door behind them opened. Other cadets entered. They looked at Velu, then at Ryan. Some whispered. No one laughed this time, but no one spoke to him either. The training began. This time, the drills were harder. They had to climb walls that moved, jump across spinning bridges, use their bodies and minds at the same time. Ryan fell twice. He scraped his hand. But each time, Velu was nearby. She didn't help him directly, but she stayed close. She watched. After training, Ryan sat near the food station. The trays were filled with strange meals, blue roots, glowing fruits, silver rice. He picked what looked safe. He found an empty seat. Before he could eat, someone dropped a tray beside him. Velu sat down. Ryan was surprised. No one else had ever sat near him during mealtime. "You're not like the others," she said, picking up a small fruit. "Because I'm human?" "No," she said. "Because you don't give up." He paused. "Most people think I'm weak." "They don't understand you yet." Ryan looked at her. "And you? Do you understand me?" Velu didn't smile, but her voice was calm. "I understand strength comes in many shapes." They ate in silence after that. Not the heavy kind, but peaceful. Ryan didn't feel alone anymore, not with her there. Later that day, their class moved to the strategy room. It was filled with glowing maps and floating pieces. Each group was given a mission. They had to plan an escape from an enemy trap. Most cadets argued about ideas. Ryan stayed quiet, listening. Velu turned to him. "What would you do?" He blinked. "You want my input?" "You saw things others didn't during the last drill. I want to know your thought." Ryan looked at the map. Then he spoke. "If we fake a signal and lead the enemy to think we're hiding in the canyon, they'll trap that area. But we can use the frozen river to move under their scanners." The others looked at him, surprised. The instructor walked over and nodded. "Correct," the instructor said. "That is the most efficient route." After class, a few cadets glanced at Ryan with something new in their eyes. Not respect yet, but curiosity. That evening, Velu and Ryan walked along the viewing deck. Stars shined outside, big, quiet, endless. The galaxy felt so large. Ryan felt so small. He asked the question again. "Why me?" Velu looked at the stars. "When I was younger, my mother told me a story." Ryan listened. She said there was once a race called humans, not the strongest, not the smartest, but they could rise even after falling many times. They didn't stop. That made them dangerous in battle, but also powerful in peace. Ryan didn't know what to say. "I wanted to see if the story was true," Velu added. Now I know it is. Ryan looked at her. Thank you. For believing. She nodded. I don't believe. I observe. And you show me the truth. The lights dimmed slightly. Nighttime on the Academy ship. As they stood side by side, Ryan felt different. Not stronger, but steadier. He didn't understand Velu completely. She was still a mystery. But one thing was clear. She didn't choose him out of pity. She chose him because she saw something real. And in a ship full of strangers, that meant everything. The lights inside the Academy ship turned red that morning. Not for danger, but for testing day. It was written in every corner of the hall. Full combat simulation. Teams will be dropped into Sector 7. Survival and teamwork are the key. Ryan stood near the equipment table, checking his gear. It was basic. A simple belt with small tools, a light shield, and a wrist communicator. No real weapons. The simulation was not about fighting. It was about thinking, reacting, and surviving. Velu stood beside him, calm as always. She wore the same gear, but moved with more ease. She had trained since childhood. This was natural for her. For Ryan, every moment still felt new. The instructor spoke in a loud voice. You will be dropped in teams of 5. Your goal is to reach the signal tower and activate the beacon. Work together. Support each other. The simulation will not stop for you. The teams were called one by one. Velu and Ryan were placed with 3 others. A floating cadet with 4 arms named Rel, a tall one with metal skin called Zarn, and a quiet one with soft fur named me.HFY. When they all stood together, Zarn frowned. Why is the human here again? He said. Velu didn't answer, but her eyes narrowed. Ryan said nothing. He had already learned that some words didn't need answers. The floor opened beneath them, and their team dropped into the simulation zone. The area was huge. Cold wind blew across a rocky valley. Sharp cliffs rose high, and clouds above moved fast. Everything looked real. The ground, the sky, even the sound of distant thunder. The Academy had used powerful machines to make this place. Ryan stood up and looked around. The cold bit through his clothes. The map on his wrist showed the beacon's location. It was at the top of a cliff far to the east. We need to move, Velu said. Storm is coming. They began walking. At first, the team worked together. Zarn led the front, breaking paths with his heavy steps. Rel floated above, scanning for danger. me.HFY stayed quiet but kept watch. Ryan stayed near Velu, but after an hour, things began to fall apart. There's no point waiting for the human, Zarn said. He's slowing us down. We stay together, Velu replied. We don't need him, Zarn said. We'll reach the beacon faster without him. Without warning, Zarn changed direction and walked off. Rel followed. me.HFY hesitated, then walked after them. Velu turned to Ryan. Are you all right? Ryan nodded. Go with them. I'll catch up. But Velu shook her head. I stay. They moved at their own pace. The wind grew stronger. The temperature dropped. Strange shadows moved in the mist. At one point, the ground cracked under Ryan's foot, and he fell into a shallow pit. Velu reached down. Give me your hand. With her help, he climbed out. His leg was bruised but not broken. They made a shelter under a large rock. Velu used small heat cubes from her belt. Ryan took out his tool and adjusted one of the broken scanners. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed through the canyon. A deep rumble. Then the ground shook. Something was wrong. A red light blinked on both their wrist maps. System error. This is not part of the test, Velu said. The temperature dropped even more. The mist turned into ice. The wind became louder. They were caught in a real storm. The simulation had failed. Ryan quickly pulled out wires from his belt and connected them to a broken light pole near their shelter. Velu watched. What are you doing? Making a beacon, Ryan said. She looked at him with quiet respect. Ryan used his knowledge of old Earth tech. He wrapped the wires around the pole, used energy from his heat cell, and created a simple signal. It blinked once, twice, then stayed lit. If the instructors lost control, he said, this might help them find us. Velu nodded. Smart. As the storm raged outside, they stayed close to the warm light. Ryan checked the beacon again. Do you think the others are all right? Velu looked out into the wind. I hope so. The night passed slowly. The simulation didn't shut down. The systems didn't reset. Ryan and Velu took turns staying awake. By morning, the wind had stopped. The signal light was still on. A loud sound came from above. A rescue drone flew over the cliff and dropped a rope. They were lifted out of the canyon. Back in the academy hall, the instructors looked serious. Something had gone wrong in the system. The simulation zone had locked itself. Many cadets had suffered. Some had been injured, but 2 had survived without help, Ryan and Velu. When they walked into the room, everyone turned to look at them, not with laughter, not with anger, but with silence. The instructors asked questions. How did they survive? What did they do? Who built the beacon? Velu pointed to Ryan. He did. The instructors looked impressed. One of them, an old Zyrian captain, stepped forward. You think like an engineer and act like a soldier. Not bad for a first-year human. Ryan said nothing. He just nodded. That evening, as they walked past the food station, me.HFY stopped him. Thank you, she said. We saw your signal. We followed it. That's how we got out. Ryan nodded again. He didn't need praise. He only needed to keep going. Velu walked beside him. You built hope in the middle of the storm, she said. Ryan smiled. I just didn't want to freeze. Velu looked at him for a moment. But you didn't freeze. You fought. That matters. The simulation had tested more than skill. It tested heart, and Ryan had passed. A week passed after the failed simulation. News spread across the academy. The system had locked up, the storm was real, and one human had built a signal that saved others. Ryan's name was now known. Some cadets respected him, some stayed silent, but one didn't stay quiet. Drav. He was from the mountain clans of the planet Chorus. His body was built like stone, tall and wide. His skin was dark red, his eyes sharp like a hawk. He was one of the top fighters in the academy and had won many duels, and he didn't like humans. Ryan was walking through the central hall after training when he heard Drav's voice echo through the open space. Is this the human who everyone talks about? The crowd turned. Ryan stopped. Velu, standing near the far wall, stepped forward, but Ryan raised a hand to stop her. Drav walked forward slowly. You survived one cold night, and now you think you're strong? Ryan didn't reply. Drav smiled in a way that wasn't friendly. Let's see what strength really means. I challenge you to a duel. No weapons, no tech, just skill. Whispers filled the hall. Duels were part of academy rules. No one could force a fight, but challenges were allowed. If someone accepted, it had to be fair and watched by instructors. Ryan looked at Drav. He knew this wasn't about honor. It was pride. Drav wanted to break the story, prove that Ryan was still nothing. I accept, Ryan said. Velu looked surprised. She stepped beside him. You don't have to do this. I know, he replied, but I will. The next morning, the combat hall was full. Cadets lined the upper walls. The instructors stood in a row. Even the academy commander was there. The floor lit up. Ryan walked in from one side. Drav entered from the other. They stood across from each other. No gear, no help. The signal rang. Drav rushed forward fast. His steps made the ground shake. His first swing missed, but the wind behind it pushed Ryan back. Ryan didn't try to hit back. He moved, dodged, watched. He had studied Drav before. Fast, heavy, powerful, but too proud, too loud. Ryan let Drav chase him across the floor, letting him waste energy. One hit grazed his shoulder, but Ryan kept going. He waited for one mistake. It came. Drav charged and turned too sharp. His foot slipped just a little. Ryan stepped aside and kicked his leg from behind. Drav fell to one knee. Ryan backed away. The crowd gasped. Drav stood up again and roared. He charged harder. This time, Ryan didn't run. He stood calm. When Drav came close, Ryan dropped low, rolled under his swing, and kicked his back. Drav hit the ground. Ryan stood over him but didn't strike. "I won't hit you while you're down," he said. Drav's hand clenched the floor. He looked up. For a moment, his eyes were full of fire. Then something changed. He stood slowly, not to fight, but to face the truth. The instructor stepped forward. "Enough. The match is complete." The signal rang again. The duel was over. The crowd was silent for a second. Then some cadets began to clap. Others followed. Ryan didn't raise his hands. He walked off the floor, his body tired, his face calm. Velu met him outside the hall. "You were clever." "I was careful," Ryan replied. "You didn't want to hurt him." "No. I just wanted him to see I wasn't weak." She nodded. That evening, something strange happened. As Ryan sat in the food area, Drav walked toward him. Everyone turned to watch. Drav stopped in front of him. "You fight with patience," he said. "I was wrong about you." Ryan stood. He didn't know what to say. Drav held out his hand. Ryan shook it. From that day, the mood changed. Cadets who once ignored him started to greet him. Some asked questions. Others asked for advice. Ryan helped when he could. He didn't become the most powerful or the fastest. But his name now meant something. Velu stayed close, as always. She didn't speak much, but she was always there. One night, they sat near the garden dome. Stars above them, quiet wind around them. "You did more." "Then win," Velu said. "I only lasted long enough to turn the fight," Ryan replied. "Sometimes lasting is the victory." He looked at her. "Why do you stay with me?" Velu paused. "Because when you walk into fire, you come out stronger." He smiled. The stars kept shining above. And somewhere deep inside the Academy ship, a record was made. Ryan, human, survivor, fighter, not laughed at anymore. The Academy ship was flying near the edge of neutral space. Outside the windows, stars looked like tiny fires. Inside, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Ryan was working in the tech lab with Velu. They were fixing a damaged drone. Velu held the tools, and Ryan used a small scanner to check the circuits. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then the screen on the wall turned black. A loud beep came from every wrist device in the room. A red symbol appeared. Unknown error. System access blocked. Velu looked at Ryan. "This is not normal." They rushed into the hallway. Cadets and instructors were already moving. Something was wrong with the ship's systems. Doors were stuck. Lights were failing. Communication. Screens were dead. Then came the voice of Commander Naren through the ship's loudspeaker. "All cadets, report to your stations. We are facing a system breach. This is not a drill." Ryan's heart beat faster. A system breach meant someone had hacked into the ship, and if the memory core was attacked, the whole ship could shut down. The memory core was the heart of the Academy ship. It held navigation, power controls, life support, everything. If it failed, the ship would stop breathing. Velu pulled Ryan aside. "You studied tech more than anyone. You helped fix that drone without tools. Maybe you can help now." Ryan nodded. "I'll try." The command deck was locked, but Velu had access. Her family was connected to the Academy's founders. With her voice scan, the door opened. Inside, chaos filled the room. Officers tried to restart systems. A few screens were flashing with strange Code. Ryan stepped forward. I can help. Some officers looked unsure. One of them spoke. You're a cadet. This is not your place. Commander Naren turned. His silver armor looked dull in the emergency lights. He looked at Ryan. You were the one who fixed the signal in the simulation zone. Yes, Ryan said. Then go. The memory core is 2 levels down. If you can reach it, do what you can. Ryan and Velu ran through the lower halls. Smoke filled part of the corridor. A fire control unit had exploded. Small bots floated around, trying to fix broken panels. The closer they got to the memory core, the worse it looked. The main door was sealed. Ryan knelt beside the control box. Sparks came from inside. The power lock was fried. I need to open this manually, he said. Velu watched the hallway. I'll cover you. Ryan pulled out his belt. From it, he took a coil of wire, a sharp pin, and a small tool he had made himself. He worked fast. Sweat rolled down his face. The ship trembled again. Come on, he whispered. A click. The door opened with a heavy sound. Inside the core chamber, lights blinked in wild colors. Red warnings filled the air. A dark fog moved through the room. It was not smoke. It was nanocode, a kind of digital virus that floated like mist. Velu covered her face. Be careful. Ryan stepped toward the main terminal. His screen showed a message. Unknown source. Accessing control. Rewrite in progress. If the virus completed that rewrite, the ship's memory would be lost. Ryan connected his wrist device to the core panel. The virus tried to block him. Symbols flew across the screen. Ryan moved fast. He recognized part of the code. It was old, Earth-style. Someone had used human tech to attack the Academy. I can stop it, he said. He typed commands, created a mirror loop. The virus tried to jump systems. Ryan trapped it. Then he wrote a backdoor line. He had learned it from an old Earth file called Ghost Path. It was risky. If he failed, the core would crash. I trust you, Velu said behind him. He didn't look back. He finished the code and pressed enter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the lights turned white again. The air cleared. The warning sound stopped. Ryan stepped back. The system was back online. He fell to one knee, breathing hard. Velu helped him stand. You did it. Ryan nodded slowly. Not alone. They returned to the command deck. Officers stared as the lights came back. The screens returned to normal. Commander Naren stepped forward. Who stopped the breach? Ryan stood still. Velu spoke first. He did. Naren looked at Ryan. How? I followed the code. It was old Earth design. I understood its pattern. The commander nodded. You saved us. Later that day, the Academy gave an official report. The virus was sent from an unknown ship that passed nearby. The attack had failed. No lives were lost, but one cadet was. Named in the report, Ryan, human, tech class cadet, system defender. Other cadets clapped when he walked into the hall that evening. Even Rel, the floating cadet who once ignored him, gave him a small nod. Drav, who once challenged him, said, You fight with your hands and your mind. Ryan gave a small smile. But the best moment came when Velu walked beside him and said, You don't just survive, you protect. That's what makes you different. Ryan looked out the window. Stars were still there. The galaxy was still huge. But now he didn't feel small. He felt ready for what came next. The Academy ship was quiet that evening. The stars outside shone like tiny lanterns in the dark. Ryan sat near the observation window. His thoughts were heavy, but calm. Velu approached silently. She stood beside him, looking out at the vast space. Do you ever wonder where we come from? She asked. Ryan turned to her. Sometimes. Why? Velu took a deep breath. There is a story my mother told me long ago. Ryan listened carefully. He wanted to know. When I was young, Velu began, my mother was a great warrior and teacher. She told me about humans, about their history, how they lived on a small blue planet, full of oceans and green lands, how they were not the strongest or the smartest in the galaxy, but they had something special. Ryan leaned in. They called it fire, Velu said softly. Not the kind you can see, but a spirit inside. A spirit that makes humans rise again, when they fall. A spirit that makes them fight even when hope is gone. Ryan felt warmth in his chest. I have heard that story too, on Earth. Velu nodded. Many do not believe it. They think humans are weak. But my mother said that spirit is what makes them dangerous. Not because they want to fight, but because they never stop. Ryan looked away. I do not always feel that spirit. Sometimes I feel small, lost. Velu smiled faintly. That is why I chose you. Ryan's eyes widened. You chose me? Yes, Velu said. Not because you are human, but because I saw the fire in you. She reached out and touched his arm gently. When I saw you stand alone on the first day, I knew you would not break. Ryan remembered the laughter, the whispers, the cold looks. Thank you, he said quietly. Velu looked back at the stars. There is more. Ryan waited. My mother said the galaxy is changing. Old powers are fading. New ones will rise. And humans are part of that change. Ryan's heart beat faster. You believe humans will make a difference? Velu nodded, slowly. I do. And I believe you will help. They sat in silence. The stars kept shining. The vast galaxy stretched beyond their view. Ryan felt a new strength, not from muscles or weapons, but from hope, from trust, from knowing someone believed in him. Velu broke the silence. Tomorrow the Academy will hold a ceremony. You will be recognized for your work saving the ship. Ryan smiled, but it was small. I do not want to be famous. Velu looked at him. It is not about fame. It is about respect. You earned it. He looked at her. Thank you, Velu, for everything. She stood and gave a small bow. You will do great things. I know it. As she walked away, Ryan stared at the stars again. The story of fire was real. The spirit his mother spoke of was real, and he was ready to rise. The day of the Academy ceremony arrived. The large hall was filled with cadets, instructors, and guests from many planets. The air buzzed with excitement and quiet talks. Flags from many worlds hung from the ceiling. The floor was polished and shining. Rion stood near Velu. His uniform was clean and neat, but he felt nervous. He had never been part of something so big. He looked around and saw many faces watching him. Some smiled, some nodded, some were curious. The Academy commander stepped forward. His voice was strong and clear. Today we honor those who have shown courage and skill beyond expectation. Among them is a cadet new to our ranks who faced danger with calm and saved this ship from collapse. Ryan felt all eyes on him. He didn't look proud. He only stood straight. The commander called his name. Ryan stepped forward. As he walked, he noticed the crowd was silent, waiting. When he reached the front, the commander placed a medal on his chest. You have earned the respect of this academy and its people. Ryan bowed his head slightly. The crowd then broke into applause. The sound was loud and steady. For the first time, no one laughed. No one whispered. Only respect. He looked to Velu. She smiled softly and gave a small nod. He felt something warm, inside. After the ceremony, many cadets came to talk to him. A younger one tripped and fell. Ryan was the first to step forward and help him up. The crowd noticed. One by one, others started to help too. It was a small act, but it showed that he was not just strong. He was kind. Later, in the training halls, Ryan worked with others. They asked him questions. They wanted to learn from him. He helped when he could. Not because he wanted to be a leader, but because he cared. Velu stayed close. Sometimes she watched quietly. Sometimes she helped explain a lesson. She never took the spotlight, but her presence was steady like a calm river. One evening, as the stars blinked outside, Ryan and Velu stood near the garden dome. The air smelled like flowers from distant planets. "You change things," Velu said softly. Ryan looked at her. "I just tried to survive." "You did more than that. You helped. Others believe in something new." Ryan smiled. "Maybe." Velu looked at the stars. "The galaxy is bigger than any one person, but together, we make it better." Ryan nodded. "I want to be part of that." The Academy ship floated through space, carrying dreams and stories. Among them was one human who was no longer laughed at, one who had earned a place, and one who was ready to face what the future held.